There are two types of perfectionism, and I think I've fallen victim of both. Welcome back to the Input Cafe podcast. We finally have a title. Yay! So, yesterday I hit record on this podcast. Yesterday I launched the pilot. So, today I'm officially recording episode 1. And I didn't even have a title yesterday. So I had a vision. I knew what the purpose of the podcast was supposed to be. It's to help you immerse yourself in the language, the daily language, which is not scripted content. It's just, very random things. And I knew that the podcast was going to be, a format that's not really a format, but, it offers you some content, some English content that you can choose to watch this on YouTube, or you can choose to listen to this on YouTube Music with your screen turned off and just passive listening. But so I knew the purpose that I wanted to accomplish, but I didn't have a clear vision, and that reflected in the fact that I hit record without having a title, without even having a thumbnail. So today I'm officially recording episode 1 of the Input Cafe podcast. So what I'm talking about today is something that you probably can relate to. And we're talking perfectionism and how it affects the way you perform. And we're not talking about performance in a mere sense of, doing something for an audience, but we're also talking about performing as a person. And that's not really a performance. But if you think about life as, a stage, and the people all around you looking at what you're doing, that is kind of a performance. And even in relationships, there is, some sort of performance to a degree where you have to, please another person. And I'm not saying that you have to be a people pleaser, you don't want to fall into that. But you can look at different parts of your life as a performance, and perfectionism keeps you from starting things, and it can also keep you from getting good at the things that you are already doing. So today we're talking two types of perfectionism, as I mentioned in the very beginning of this episode. And the thing that really strikes me is, when I look back at my language acquisition journey, is that the dips were rooted in perfectionism. So at some point I was trying to talk and sound like a native speaker, even though I knew that didn't really matter. So acknowledging the fact that no one really cares whether you sound like a native speaker or not. And if you're putting yourself out there, like making content in English or in a language that's not your first language, somebody will come in your comment section and comment some mean things. That does not mean that they really care. So when people comment mean things, you might get the impression, you might be under the false, belief that they actually care about your accent, your pronunciation, the way you sound or don't sound like a native speaker. And that is a complete, oh man, what's the word I'm looking for? That is a misbelief that you have to get rid of. The fact that somebody comments on your English, on your accent, on your pronunciation, does not mean that they care. So when I realized this, I started also realizing that I was trying to perform. I wasn't trying to communicate. And when I got rid of the performance part in my language acquisition journey, that's when things started getting better for me. I started enjoying the language acquisition process. And I have to say, this is a very Italian thing. Most people who are born and raised in Italy, they feel the pressure of performing when communicating in a second language, in their second language, in their third language. And this is probably rooted in our school system, but it's not even that. I don't want to blame it on the school system. But I have a clear memory of trying to speak good English in class being, laughed at because of my Perfectionism, of course, I'm talking about a 12-year-old girl, my 12-year-old self, trying to sound like a native speaker, trying to, get those sounds those sounds that are really, they're very, very, different from what we experience as native speakers of Italian. And my classmates will be like, "It's just trying so hard." Well, I was trying very hard, and trying very hard is not a bad thing, as long as you're not falling into the trap of perfectionism, which at some point kept me from doing the best I could do. So looking at, I have my notes here because this is not scripted, as you can tell, but I want some topic to be in place, and I want to have at least an idea of the things I'm talking about. So if you're watching this, here's my notebook. If you're not watching this and you're just listening to this, you can hear me, going back and forth through my notes in my notebook. So, however, what I was saying is that, perfectionism can be bad. However, it can be a reason for you to try and strive for perfection, with the knowledge, with the awareness that you will never be perfect. So I wouldn't call that perfectionism, that good kind of perfectionism. I wouldn't even call it perfectionism. I will call it striving for perfection. And perfectionism is different. So, I'm looking at my notes. I was talking about the two types of perfectionism. So the two types that I found in my patterns are different, but they're rooted in the same, the same problem. The wanting to perform, wanting to be super good at something. And so the first type of perfectionism is what prevented me from starting things, getting things started, waiting until you have the perfect environment, the perfect set, the perfect equipment, the perfect lighting. I cannot start a YouTube channel because I'm not good enough at editing. I don't have the skills. I cannot record. I don't have a good camera. I'm recording this on my phone, by the way. So that's the first type of perfectionism that prevents you from starting. Then the second type, and that's probably the one that I fall victim to the most, is the second type that's preventing me from getting better at things. Now, the first type stems from comparing myself to others, comparing myself to somebody who's already an expert at that certain thing that I'm trying to achieve. The second type stems from comparing myself to the best version of myself. And they're both very bad. So for the second type of perfectionism, which keeps me from getting better, is I find it very liberating to know that what I'm doing today is already better compared to what I was doing yesterday. And you can see it in this podcast. This podcast has 2 episodes, the pilot and episode 1, which is the episode you're watching right now or listening to right now. Today I have notes. Today I have a title. Today I have a better thumbnail. Today I have an idea of where I'm going with this. So I'm already doing better compared to what I was doing yesterday. And I shouldn't be looking at what this should look like or what this will look like in 1 year from now. So if you're stuck in your language acquisition journey and you're falling victim of one of the 2 types of perfectionism, my encouragement to you is to think about this. No one really cares, even if they are commenting on your English. They're just finding a way to project their frustration on you. But the fact that they're commenting on your English doesn't mean that they care. I want to leave you with this thought. Nobody really cares. Do this for yourself. Do this for, that better version of yourself that you're trying to achieve. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.